You know, in the springtime, fall time, and wintertime, I am often teaching classes. And one of the classes that I really like teaching is turning. It's something that I really enjoy, and I enjoy introducing people to it. But there are a couple of questions that I get during these classes that I figured we'd take a minute to address. People seem to research their lathes a lot, so they kind of get stuck on a lathe that they want to buy, and that's awesome. But most of the questions end up revolving around tools, because after somebody's purchased a lathe or decided what lathe they're getting, the tools become the secondary item. So I get a lot of questions on, there's a lot of different options available. What do I need to look for? So in this video, I kind of want to walk through some things to look for and consider when you are looking for a set of turning tools. So the first thing that I generally tell people when they are looking at turning tools is find yourself a good set. So something like this Grizzly Pro set here, this has a series of different tools in it. And I'm gonna walk through them and what each one's used for and why it's valuable to pick up as a turner. So the first is a diamond parting tool. And this tool is used mainly in spindle turning, but oftentimes we'll use this in bolt turning as well, especially for creating tenons or recesses and stuff. And this is a valuable tool that you'll use quite often. The next is an oval skew. This is a skew chisel that's used for spindle turning. This is a great way to get smooth, even surfaces, create coves and beads, and a lot of detail work. Next is a square end scraper. And this is not necessarily a profile that I will use. I'll take this square end scraper and I will regrind this probably to a radius scraper. So I'll put maybe a 2-inch radius on this end just to remove these sharp corners. But a scraper is super valuable to have. This one's nice and thick, keeps down vibration as you're turning. The next is spindle roughing gouge. And this guy here is used, as the name implies, to rough down spindle blades from square to round to start turning them. So if you're working on something like a chair leg or a table leg, this is the first tool generally to touch the wood to knock off those square corners. So the next is a spindle detail gouge. And this guy has a shallower flute than the spindle roughing gouge. And this is used to create details on stuff. So if you are rolling beads or cutting fillets on a table leg, maybe you're doing duck calls or something like that, this is your tool there. And the next is a deep flute bowl gouge. This, as the name implies, is used for bowls. This is a small 1/4 inch one. This one here is I believe a 3/8 inch size. So as a bowl turner, I have many different sizes of these, but these are the tools that you would use for faceplate work. So something like hollowing out the inside of this bowl that I'm finishing up. So that's a good set and a good variety of tools in a basic set. But there are a couple other things to look at. You can get super cheap sets, but they're cheap sets. The biggest thing that makes a good quality tool versus a cheap tool is the quality of the steel. Cheaper tools are made out of lesser quality steel, and that causes several issues. The first being that a cheaper steel can have imperfections, which means that as you're turning, if you get a catch, or even just in regular turning, if there is an imperfection, that steel can break. And the other issue that is a bigger problem in my mind as we're turning is that steel will wear out extremely quickly and it will dull very quickly. Now, if you think about this, as I'm turning this bowl, this thing's spinning at 1,000 RPM. So there is a lot of surface area that this thing is cutting every 30, 40 seconds. We're cutting miles and miles of wood. And we need this steel to hold an edge. We want the thing to stay as sharp as it can, as long as it can. So the thing I look for is a good quality steel. So something like this Grizzly Pro is out of M2 steel. This is a good steel alloy. It gets sharp and it stays sharp. And the thing that's different about this one is this is a cryogenically treated one, meaning during the heat treating process, this thing is cooled in super cooled liquid, -300 degrees Fahrenheit, and that really aligns the crystalline structure of the steel and it really toughens the steel up. So there's a lot more wear resistance on these edges. That doesn't mean that it's necessarily harder to sharpen. These are sharpened on a bench grinder, and with the appropriate wheel, you'll be able to sharpen them very quickly, but they do just last longer. Now, the other things that I look for, apart from the steel, and this isn't as big a deal, especially once you start getting into custom tool handles, is the actual handle setup. Because a lot of us, as we start, we're more interested in turning our projects and not our tools. So I look for something that has a nice long handle. I want it to be smooth. I don't want it to be rough or have anything in there that's going to cause blisters as I'm turning. So something like this one has a beach handle. It's nice and smooth. Then I also look at the ferrule system on here and see, is that loose? Is that going to rattle off as I'm turning? These ones are nice and tight. So those are things that I keep an eye out for. So if you're in the market to level up your tools in your shop, or you need to buy a new set of tools for your lathe, take a look at a high quality set of tools. Something like this Grizzly Pro has a really nice steel. It sharpens well. They're comfortable to hold, and they'll serve you well for years to come.